The air in the dragon stables was always thick with heat, smoke, and the heavy scent of blood. Joran moved through it like a ghost, broom in hand, dragging the remains of another feeding into the fire pit. He was covered in soot, his hands blistered, and his voice never used. No one listened to a stable boy, especially not a human one. Threxos 9 was a gladiator world where dragons fought for glory and blood. The strongest warriors from alien races paid fortunes to ride the engineered beasts in deadly arenas. But dragons were not machines. They were alive, bred from forgotten genetic designs and linked to their riders by chemical chains and cruel implants. They hated their masters, but they obeyed them, or so everyone thought. Joran had been brought here as a child, taken from Earth during a slave roundup by the Xeran Syndicate. Humans were cheap labor, unimportant, weak, emotionally unstable, the perfect creatures to scrub floors, clean bone pits, and disappear when not needed. Joran had learned to survive by staying silent, by keeping his head down. But at night, when the others slept, he would sit beside the dragon pens and listen, not to the growls or the breathing, but to the low, almost inaudible hums, like music trapped beneath metal. He didn't understand it, but it pulled at him. It was as if the dragons were singing in a voice no one else could hear. They laughed at him for it. The other slaves, the handlers, even the guards. Crazy earth rat, they'd say, talking to beasts that would roast him in a second. But he didn't care. There was one dragon, Varanth, massive, black-scaled, scars etched deep into his hide, who stared at him in a way none of the others did. Not with hunger, but with memory. Joran often sat outside Varanth's cage and hummed softly. Just sounds. No words. And sometimes the great beast would shift, rumble, and close his eyes. Almost peacefully. Then came the arena incident. The crowd was electric, screaming in 12 languages, the stands glowing with banners and blood. A champion from the Karak Empire was scheduled to ride Varanth into the final match, an honor that only the richest or deadliest could buy. Joran was far below, cleaning the waste pits, when the alarms began. Screams echoed, sirens blared, and then a sound cut through everything. A roar so deep it made the walls shake. Varanth had broken loose. Joran rushed to the upper levels. What he saw froze his blood. Varanth stood alone in the center of the arena, his handler crushed beneath, one claw fire leaking from his mouth. Warriors had fled. Security bots lay shattered. The champion had tried to control him with neural whips. Now his charred body lay against the wall. The crowd screamed for evacuation. Snipers were lining up. Drones began to circle. But the dragon didn't attack again. He just stood there, breathing hard, hurt, lost, angry. Joran didn't think. He didn't plan. He just climbed over the railing and walked into the arena. Gasps filled the Colosseum. Is that a slave? Is he insane? Get him out! But Joran didn't hear them. He stepped over the blood, across broken weapons, until he stood just meters from the beast. Varanth turned his head slowly, eyes glowing like dying suns. The snipers locked on. And then Joran spoke. I hear you. No command, no fear, just those 3 words. He lifted a hand, palm open, and hummed. The same soft tune he always did, the same sound that came to him in dreams. Varanth stared. The dragon's chest rose and fell, his claws flexed. And then he knelt. The entire arena fell silent. Varanth lowered his head, wings folding back, tail coiling calmly, not in defeat, not in submission, but in recognition. The snipers froze. The crowd whispered. No one moved. A high-ranking warlord in the command booth stood, his drink forgotten. He turned to his aide, eyes wide. Find that human, now. Bring him to me, alive. And far below the arena floor, the other dragons in the stables stirred from their sleep and began to hum. Joran sat in a cold metal chair, hands bound, his face bruised from the guards who had escorted him from the arena. He had no idea where he was, only that the air smelled different, clean, no smoke, no dragon musk. The walls were smooth and humming with energy, a place for important people, not stables. Across from him stood 3 alien figures. Counselor, Vark, a high-ranking Karak noble with silver horns, Elder Tarkin, a scientist whose skin pulsed with changing colors, and Commander Yell, a brutal war tactician with a voice like breaking glass. They all stared at him like he was some dangerous creature that had crawled out of a cave. "What did you do to the dragon?" Yell asked, pacing. "Speak." "I didn't do anything," Joran whispered. "I just sang." "Lies," Vark snapped. "No dragon obeys without command chains. We built them to resist emotion. They only answer power." "He didn't command it," Tarkin said softly, staring at a tablet showing the arena footage. "He connected with it." They played the clip again, over and over. Joran walking forward, the dragon kneeling, the hum in the background that none of them could explain. The way the other dragons shifted in their sleep at that exact moment. Caught on background surveillance, Tarkin turned to the others. "We've seen it before, long ago, in the early Builder archives. They spoke of a songbinder, a human who could awaken what machines could not." "That's myth," Yell scoffed. "Is it?" Tarkin raised a brow. "Then explain why 10 dragons across 3 sectors stirred when this boy spoke. They all responded. At the same time." The room went quiet. Back in his cell, Joran curled up on the bench. He didn't understand what was happening. He didn't want this attention. All he knew was that when Varanth looked at him, something inside him came alive, like a buried memory that wasn't his. That night, while the guards argued about orders outside, Joran heard it again, a soft humming. This time not from memory or dream. It was real, coming from the wall. He leaned in. "Varanth?" he whispered. No answer, but the humming grew louder, deeper. Then came a voice, not a growl, not a word, but a feeling that wrapped around his mind. "Master." Joran's eyes widened. "What did you call me?" The voice answered again from the depths of thought and sound. "We remember you, the song, the bond, the fire of home." Joran backed away. "I don't understand." "You will. The next morning." Guards stormed his cell. But they didn't beat him. They escorted him, carefully, to a massive observation chamber. On the other side of the glass was a dragon he didn't know. Red-scaled, one eye missing, battle scars across its chest. Tarkin stood beside him. "This one hasn't spoken in years. No handler could tame it. We've kept it alive only because it's too dangerous to kill." Joran stared at the beast. It stared back. Silence. "Try it," Tarkin said. Joran stepped forward, slowly. His hands trembled. He wasn't even sure what he was supposed to try. He closed his eyes, breathed in, and began to hum. Low, soft. No melody, just feeling, like before. The dragon lifted its head. Joran opened his eyes. "Do you hear me?" For a long moment, nothing. Then the dragon moved closer. Its single eye locked on Joran. "Master," it whispered, the voice vibrating through the glass. Tarkin gasped. Alarms triggered. Guards raised weapons. "Hold your fire," Tarkin shouted. "It spoke! It chose!" News spread faster than light, across. Distant worlds, dragons began to stir. In training pits, on warships, in cryo-vaults, some broke their chains, others roared at nothing. A strange hum, ancient and heavy, rippled across the stars. Back in the chamber, Joran stared at the beast in front of him, his heart pounding. "Why me?" he whispered. The dragon lowered its head. "Because you remember what they forgot. You feel. You listen. You are what they feared would return." The door opened behind him. Tarkin entered, pale and shaking. "Joran," he said, voice tight, "you need to come with me, now." "Why?" "Because dragons on 10 worlds just called out the same word at the same moment. And that word was your name." The sky above Thraxos 9 turned crimson as the planet's twin suns dipped beneath the ash clouds. But no one looked up. Every eye, every screen, every sensor pointed to one thing. Dragons were waking. Across the galaxy, vaults meant to hold the fiercest creatures in the known universe were going dark. Chains were shattering, neural inhibitors were failing, and through it all, a single word echoed. "Joran!" Inside a massive star cruiser high above the planet, Joran stood in a command chamber he didn't belong in. Tarkin paced nearby, watching. Dozens of live feeds from across the galaxy, dragons howling, cages melting, riders thrown off, firestorms blazing through the night. "This is beyond science," the elder muttered. "It's not technology. It's something older. Something we unmade a long time ago." Joran stared in shock. He had never left Thraxos 9 before. He had never even ridden a dragon. And now, beasts across the stars were whispering his name like a memory. "Why me?" he asked again. "I'm just a stable boy." Tarkin shook his head. "Not anymore. You're the only one they're listening to. The Karak Council wants answers. The dragon houses are panicking. You've become the most dangerous person in the galaxy, Joran, and the most valuable." A hologram flickered into the air. A Karak warlord named Braxis, his armor glowing with blood sigils. "Contain the human. Do not let him escape. If the dragons remember who they once were, we will lose control. The arenas, the weapons, the power, we'll lose everything." Joran felt cold. "They want to kill me, don't they?" Tarkin's eyes narrowed. "No. They want to use you. Until they can kill you." Suddenly, the ship shook. "Impact in Hangar Bay," a voice called over the intercom. "Something just landed. It wasn't cleared for approach." Joran and Tarkin rushed to the observation deck. Below the hangar doors were molten slag. Standing. In the smoke was a dragon. Massive, silver-scaled, with plasma scars across its wings. Upon its back rode a figure cloaked in bone-white armor, helm shaped like a fang. "That's not possible," Tarkin whispered. "That's Varanth," Joran said, his voice quiet but certain. The dragon let out a deep growl, low and rising like thunder rolling uphill. But it wasn't a challenge. It was a call. Joran didn't wait for permission. He turned and ran for the lift. "Joran, stop!" Tarkin shouted. "You can't!" But the boy was already gone. When the lift doors opened into the hangar, smoke curled around him like steam off hot stone. Varanth stood still, eyes glowing, waiting. The armored rider dismounted and pulled off their helmet. To Joran's shock, it was a human woman. Older, her hair white at the edges, scars like maps across her skin. "You're real," she said. "So are you," Joran replied, confused. "Who are you?" "I'm Lyra, last of the Skybinders. I came when I heard your name. I didn't think another would rise. Not after what they did to us." "What did they do?" She looked at him with sorrow. "They erased your kind from memory, hunted us, burned the songs from the stars. But the dragons never forgot. They just waited." "Waited for what?" She stepped aside and nodded toward Varanth. "You." Joran's heart pounded. He walked forward slowly. Varanth lowered his head and let the boy place a hand on his snout. "Master," the dragon said again. But this time a second voice joined it, one from far across the void. Another dragon, then a third, then 5, then hundreds. From 1,000 hidden places, across warships and slave pits and forgotten ruins, the dragons sang one word: return, and then rise. The hangar shook. Lyra turned to Joran, eyes wide. They're not just waking up, they're coming. Coming where? To you, she said. To the one they choose. You've started something that can't be undone. And now, the galaxy is going to burn or be reborn. Because for the first time in 1,000 years, she pointed to the stars as dozens of ships began to change course. The dragons have a master again. The stars were alive with movement. Across sectors once ruled by silence and fear, dragons were tearing through space like blazing comets. Some flew alone. Others shattered the hulls of prison ships, freeing their own. One by one, they were turning, not against each other, not against the stars, but toward one single pull: Joran, the stable boy, the boy they once mocked, the boy who now stood in the war room of an ancient star cruiser, watching fleets shift course toward him, not with missiles, but with dragons. Lyra stood beside him, armor battered from 1,000 battles, her face carved by time and war. She stared at the screens, her hands clenched. We don't have much time. The Karak will strike before the dragons reach you. They're afraid, not just of you, but of what the dragons will remember. Joran shook his head. But I don't understand any of this. I'm not special. I didn't train for this. I mucked stalls. Exactly, Lyra said softly. You didn't grow up in their systems. You weren't raised to control dragons. You were raised to care for them. That's what they forgot. That's what the dragons remember. You didn't bend them. You saw them. The ship trembled as the Karak blockade began to tighten. Warships surrounded them. Broadcasts blared in every language. Surrender the human. Destroy the song. Missiles charged. Fighters swarmed. Joran watched it all in a daze, his heart hammering in his chest. We're going to die. No, Lyra said. Not if you do what only you can do. She walked him to the central chamber, a massive sphere filled with ancient tech long buried by the Karak. Runes pulsed on the walls, builder symbols, etched in gold and starlight. This was the song core, Lyra explained. It once connected the skybinders to every bonded dragon across the stars. It was destroyed during the last war, but fragments remained. Until now. She placed a small shard, glowing blue, into the core. It hummed. Your voice. Your bond. You can awaken it again. Joran hesitated. What if I fail? She looked at him gently. Then we all fall. But if you sing, they'll hear you. Outside, the Karak fleet armed their weapons. Inside, Joran stepped forward. He closed his eyes. His palms trembled. His chest ached. Then he sang. Not with words, not with training, but with feeling. The same way he sang to soothe the dragons in their cages. The same way he sang in the quiet of night when he thought no one listened. The hum began low, then rose, then filled the chamber with something ancient and beautiful. The song core ignited. In an instant, dragons across the stars froze mid-flight. Their eyes widened, their wings stilled, and then they roared, a single sound, a single answer. He lives. The Karak fleet moved to strike. But the sky tore open. Hundreds of dragons erupted from hyperspace, glowing, burning, crying out in voices no human could mimic. They didn't attack Karak ships with weapons. They flew through them, melting. Hulls, turning missiles to vapor, tearing apart entire cruisers with wings of fire and lightning. No war formation, no command grid, just fury, just memory. And at the center of it, Joran. He stood in the core chamber, surrounded by the echo of his own song, tears in his eyes. The dragons weren't just hearing him, they were feeling him. His grief, his hope, his love for them. They responded not as slaves, but as kin. The fleet broke, the Karak ran. In the silence that followed, Lyra looked at Joran and said, "They followed you. They chose you. That has never happened in recorded history. You're not just a stable boy anymore. You're the first of a new kind." Joran stepped outside the ship onto the hull. Dozens of dragons hovered nearby, wings flapping slowly, eyes glowing, bodies pulsing with energy. They bowed, not because they were forced, but because they wanted to. Far below, planets lit up with new signals. More dragons waking, more old prisons cracking, more ruins singing again. Lyra joined him. "This is just the beginning," she said. Joran nodded, staring out at the stars. "Then we end what they started. We bring back the song." And somewhere deep in the void, something ancient opened its eyes and whispered back. Darkness moved in places light had not touched in millennia. Far beyond the shattered Karak blockade, past the dead stars and the ruins of ancient builder worlds, something vast stirred. Its breath was cold, its eyes were hollow, and it remembered the song. The dragon's awakening had not gone unnoticed. Somewhere in the Veil, a hidden region thought lost to all maps, a signal had been triggered. Not a beacon of hope, but a warning, a whisper older than war. The master returns. Back aboard the star cruiser, Joran couldn't sleep. He sat in the chamber that once held the song core, now humming with quiet power. His voice had traveled farther than he ever imagined, and the dragons had answered. Yet in the silence that followed, a new fear bloomed in him. What else had hurt him? Lyra entered without a sound, her expression grim. "We intercepted something," she said. "A signal. Not Karak, not any current species. It came from the Veil." Joran looked up. "What's the Veil?" Her voice dropped. "A dead sector, forbidden space. No one goes there. Not even the Karak. It's where the last Skybinder was slain, where the final song died." Joran's stomach turned. "But now something's alive there?" Lyra nodded slowly. "And it's coming." They moved to the command deck. The hollow globe of the galaxy spun in front of them. A dark mass had begun to shift from the Veil, massive, slow, and steady. Not a fleet, not a planet, a being, one the old texts had only called Nullfire. Tarkin, now acting as their reluctant ally, slammed a datapad on the table. "This thing doesn't emit energy. It drains it. Any system it passes through goes dark. Stars flicker, ships die, dragons scream." Lyra whispered. "The dragons ran from it once. Long ago, before the war even began." Joran frowned. "Then why now?" Tarkin answered coldly. "Because they sense you. You're the signal. You're the rebirth. Nullfire was created to stop the song, to destroy the bond between dragons and humans. And now, you've brought it back." Outside the star cruiser, dragons circled restlessly, wings shimmering, eyes flickering with worry. They felt it too, a chill across their scales, a memory buried deep. Fire feared only one thing: Null. Joran walked to the viewing deck, his hand pressed to the glass. One of the dragons, a black-scaled beast named Irith, hovered close. "Do you feel it?" Joran whispered. The dragon's voice echoed in his mind. "The silence wakes. We must flee." "No," Joran said. "We don't run anymore." Lyra approached. "You don't understand. This isn't a battle you can win. You sing life. It eats it. It's not a being, it's an extinction." Joran turned to her, voice low. "Then we remind it what it tried to kill." He ordered the fleet to reroute. Dragons followed without question, not out of fear, but out of faith. They had heard the song. They had remembered the bond. And now, they were willing to burn for it. As the ships neared the edge of the veil, the stars began to flicker. Whole systems dimmed. Communications died. And in the distance, a shape rose, massive, blacker than space, with tendrils of nothing stretching for light. Nullfire was awake. It didn't speak. It devoured. One of the forward scouts vanished. No explosion, no fire, just silence. Joran stood on the forward deck, watching. His voice shook. "I need to try something." Lyra held his arm. "Joran, no." He stepped into the song-core chamber. His voice rose again, soft at first, then stronger. He sang against the dark, not with strength, but with memory. He called out names, dragons he had cared for, ones who had suffered, ones who had died. He sang of love, of forgiveness, of hope. And then, something changed. A light sparked deep, in Nullfire's shape. A single flicker. Then it screamed. Dragons reeled. The fleet shook. But Joran kept singing, louder, brighter. He poured every ounce of his soul into the sound, not to win, not to fight, but to remind. For a moment, the veil cracked, and in that crack a dragon's eye appeared, old, wounded, trapped inside Nullfire itself. Lyra gasped. "It's not just a weapon," Tarkin whispered. "It's a prison." And Joran's voice did not stop. The scream echoed through every system. It wasn't a sound the ears could hear. It was something the soul felt. A deep, ancient cry of rage, of pain, of remembrance. Nullfire wasn't just waking, it was breaking. And at its center, something long thought dead was trying to claw its way free. Joran stood in the heart of the song core, voice raw, throat aching, vision blurred. He couldn't stop. Every note he sang was like a thread pulling at the prison deep inside Nullfire. The more he sang, the more the shape in the dark writhed. The veil split wider, exposing a form beyond comprehension, vast, wrapped in layers of blackened armor and shadow. Tendrils of nothing reached toward stars and snuffed them out like candles. But inside it, bound in chains of silence, was the dragon from the old legends, the first flame, the Sky Father, the origin of the bond between human and dragon. He was still alive. Lyra gripped the railing on the command deck as the song reached a peak. "He's holding it open," she whispered. "He's giving the imprisoned dragon a voice again." Tarkin's face was pale. "If that thing fully wakes, it won't just kill dragons. It will collapse everything tied to the song. This entire region will go dark." But the dragons didn't flee. Hundreds now circled the battlefield. Black, gold, silver, crimson, blue, all answering Joran's call. Their roars blended into the song, harmonizing with the human voice that had once been seen as worthless. Stable boy, mucker of bones. Now, master of the Skyborn, Irith, the great black dragon, flew close to the bridge. His voice thundered into every mind nearby. "We must give him our fire." Lyra's eyes widened. "No, that much energy will—" "He is the last hope. If he fails, we all vanish into silence. Let the song rise." One by one, the dragons began to glow. They pulled their fire, the core of their being, their ancient link to starlight and song, and sent it into the core. Streams of light, blazing colors, pouring through space into the chamber where Joran stood. His body lifted from the floor, consumed in flame, not burning, but becoming. Outside, Nullfire shrieked, its shell cracked, and then the chains snapped. A shock wave spread across the galaxy, not of destruction, but of awakening. On thousands of worlds, dragons buried in hidden prisons opened their eyes. Shackles fell away, bonds reignited. The song passed through the stars like lightning through a storm. From the ruins of Nullfire's core, the Sky-Father emerged. Vast, blinding, wings stretching beyond moons. He looked at Joran, not with pride, not with worship, but with recognition. "You are the one," the dragon said, his voice thunder and wind and time itself. "You remembered who we were, not tools, not weapons, but family." Joran, floating within the heart of the song, barely conscious, whispered, "I just wanted them to be free." The Sky-Father turned toward what remained of Nullfire. With a single breath of pure flame song, he erased it from existence, not just destroyed, but purified. Light filled the veil. The stars returned, systems reconnected, the silence shattered. And then, peace. Joran collapsed into Lyra's arms, his body barely alive, but his spirit blazing. The song core pulsed softly now, stable, alive, connected. The dragons hovered above, watching, waiting. For the first time in centuries, they were free. Not just from the Karok, not just from fear, but from forgetting who they were. Lyra brushed the hair from his forehead. "You did it. You ended the war." Joran's voice was weak. Not a war. A silence. Later, as the galaxy adjusted to its new truth, legends would be told. Not of kings, not of armies, but of a stable boy. A boy who sang when no one listened. A boy who treated the lowest creatures like royalty. A boy who became the voice of an ancient race. He was never crowned. He never ruled. But when dragons speak of the rebirth, they do not mention generals or fleets. They speak of Joran. And they call him only one thing, the last songkeeper.